Hello, and welcome to the Human Design stream inside the Coherence Lab channel. I'm Christine. I'm a 5-1 sacral manifesting generator on the cross of refinement. In human design terms, I'm a heretic, so in this space, I will always be encouraging you to drop your conditioning from the outside world and embrace the youest you. And we'll do that by just breaking down the complexity of human design into some simple bits of knowledge for you to experiment with. In this Human Design in 5 series, I pick a particular piece of the system and just give you my top 5 things I think are worth paying attention to and maybe experimenting with and playing around with. Today, we're going to dive into the heart center in our body graph, so let's get started. Number 1, the heart center, it's also known as the ego or the will center in the human design. So it's really useful to know this nomenclature because you'll see it in various ways in various places. It's also useful because the heart and the ego and the will are all aspects of this energy. There is a really strong will component to it to push through things. And so we have to recognize that this is a motor in our system and it does have the energy to push through things, and we can overuse that. And so being aware that this pushing of our will onto others or pushing through things or overworking, it actually does physically weaken the physical heart. So being aware of that can be very useful. If you're a practitioner, and this is something I'd like to bring through this channel out into the world, is how human design can be used by practitioners. If you're a practitioner and you're taking in a little bit of human design knowledge about your clients, this ego, will, heart center is very key to knowing how this person that's in front of you is either receiving or sending energy into the world. And so an undefined heart center can feel very less than. It's just a pulsing, it's on and off for that person. So just recognizing that they may struggle with a consistent sense of self-worth is really useful, I think, as a practitioner. Number 2, 63% of the population has an undefined heart center. So that inconsistent sense of self-worth is, pretty much the majority of the people on the planet. And so this is correct for them. It's not a problem. It's nothing to be fixed. It's just that we live in a world that tells us we're supposed to have consistent self-worth, and that's just a story. And so these folks don't. And so it's useful, I think, to become aware of this fact if you have this signature in your body graph. We see the undefined heart in human design as a place where we learn to become wise about worth and value in the world. And so it's a really lovely energy, just bringing your awareness to this mechanical aspect that your self-worth and your feeling of value and feeling like enough, like that is going to ebb and flow, and just to allow it to naturally ebb and flow and not make up stories about it. As a practitioner, knowing that the majority of the clients that you're probably going to see in your practice have this inconsistent self-worth, it just may help you shift your approach to helping them see their own value. Number 3, the heart energy is very focused on the material plane. And what that means is it really is a very powerful motor. It's driving our willpower and our ego power as individuals. And it's also a very tribal energy. It's very concerned with keeping people in its close circle, resourced and safe. And so, this is food, shelter, clothing. This is, the center that's really focused on that in the world. It's really good at knowing what's of value and what is not. That's also part of this energy. And in the not self state, and we talk in human design about the not self, when we're not fully expressing our true nature, when we're operating out of our conditioning from the outside world, In the not self state, this heart energy can be really filled with desire. And we see this in the world, right? There's so much desire for things and stuff and more belongings, right? Because this heart energy is being misused in the world in many ways. And so just bringing our awareness to what is a true need for our survival and our comfort and our wellness, as opposed to what's just a desire that's been probably implanted in us in some way, is a really useful practice. And if you have an open heart, you are probably a bit more susceptible to what that outside world is telling you is of, something you should be desirous of. And so the practitioners also, again, can be really listening for these desires and helping their clients discern, like, is this a true need? Is this something that's truly you and what you want in the world and what you need for your own wellness? Or is this just something that you think you need, and may not be true? Number 4, the heart center is the most heavily conditioned center in the system. And you may have been catching this as I've been going along. This heart center is very much the place in our bodies and in our beingness that we, especially as young children, are keenly attuned to, because our whole body is geared to recognizing and keeping us safe in the world. And so as children, if for whatever reason, if we had an inconsistent sense of safety in the world, something we learn to do is to learn to make others happy or to make ourselves small so that we were not impacting their ability for us to feel safe in their presence, right? And so this is a place, lives in our heart center, this ability to put our own needs first, to see ourselves as worthy. It just gets conditioned very early on. And so this people pleasing strategy lives in this heart energy, and it doesn't go away. It's only when we start to examine it that we really notice where we continue these kinds of childhood behaviors in our adult life. And so if we didn't feel safe and seen and cared for as children, we just learned to feel unworthy. And so bringing awareness to these wounds as children can help us just untangle our own inherent value from whatever projections and problems of others that we took in. And so again, as a practitioner, the same thing. It's really helpful to know if a client has a defined or an undefined heart center. Both are subject to conditioning, but the undefined hearts are just less protected from the outside will and ego and competitiveness of others. And then finally, number 5, the not self talk of the heart center is all about proving yourself, right? And so, not self, like we just talked about, is how you've been conditioned. And if you're not feeling worthy in the world, or if you have inconsistent access to your worthiness, this need to prove yourself to yourself or to others is very often what lies underneath it. So you will show up as making resolutions or promises to others, or you'll be overly competitive, or you'll just overwork. And there's this deep sense of unworthiness that underlies that, and needs, it displays as needing to prove your value in the world. And so this undefined heart can get out into a cycle of making promises and not fulfilling them, and then just feeling less worthy than before. So the mantra for anyone working with the not self of the heart center is like, I have nothing to prove. So bringing awareness to this need to prove yourself can help you, can help you break this cycle. And practitioners can help clients recognize, when they're acting from a less than space or mindset, and just guide them towards remembering that, our inherent value is not as human doings. We're human beings. So that's the first 5 things that I think are important to pay attention to in the heart center. Of course, there's a ton more to know about the heart center, so please share any questions you have below. Obviously love to have your comments as well. And just take a moment and like and subscribe and share the word about the Coherence Lab. Thanks.